Hi there, it's Tiffany, and today I'm going to do a tutorial for you for this mesh stitch colorful half stripe blanket. And I'll also teach you how I put this half double crochet slip stitch border on it. So looks like this. You're going to love it. All right, let's get started. All right, here's a better glimpse of it. So simple mesh stitch. I'm going to show you how I changed colors through the row, but then also I'm really excited to show you how to work this border. So this is one side of it. It is kind of have a two-sided look. Here we go. There's the other side. But anyway, really, really beautiful blanket. This is made with Karen Simply Soft, sent to me by our friends at yarnspirations.com. But today for the tutorial, I am going to use larger yarn. I'm going to use their Bernat Softy Baby Chunky, just so that you can see the stitches a little bit more clearly, and it will help me to teach you that half double crochet slip stitch border. So anyway, let's start with the mesh stitch, and it would be great if you just we're just doing a practice swatch, so 20 chains is probably the best. So let me get my yarn ready to go, and we'll do 20 chains. I'm not calling this version of the blanket beginner friendly. I think this is more advanced beginner to intermediate. So a lot of the basics I'm going to skip over talking about in this video. Just in case there's any beginners here, I don't want you to get too frustrated that I am skipping over a lot of explanations. So we'll start in the second chain from the hook, and the mesh stitch is simply a single crochet, chain one, skip one, single crochet into the next chain space. The mesh stitch on our website always begins with an even number, but essentially it's an odd number plus one. We want an odd number of chains to work so that we can always end our last stitch on a single crochet. 6 rows of this mesh stitch. I will be chaining one and turning. So you work that last single crochet into that last stitch, chain one and turn. The second row of the mesh stitch, and now and throughout, is that your first single crochet is worked into the top of that single crochet, and then you chain one over the chain one from the row below and work your single crochet into the top of that single crochet. And repeat. And your last stitch again will be a single crochet. All right, so I have 6 rows of the basic mesh stitch. And now we will introduce the colors into this row. Let's work the first 2 single crochet sections, or first 2 stitches of the mesh stitch with our cream color here. But on the second one, go ahead and stop halfway through the stitch, add in the new color right there. And now in this blanket, I go ahead and leave this cream color behind. We won't be using it on this side of the blanket again. We'll go ahead and add a separate skein. It'll help us with keeping the colors nice, somewhat organized. It gets a little bit messy through these rows. Okay, I will go ahead and chain one. Then I'll work the mesh stitch for, let's do a couple of these. So just continuing with the same pattern, single crochet, chain. Let's see, let's do 3 of them. So in the third one, we will change the color in the single crochet. And now let's add the pink in, our second color. So say this was color A, color B on the pattern. Okay, so leave the gray color behind now. We don't have to carry the yarn. The most important thing is to just remember to chain 1 before you start that next stitch. So now let's work our mesh stitch over the next 3. And this is where on the blanket, of course, you'll be doing yours much larger. Let's start with open up a second skein and keep that one for this side of the blanket. I think it'll be a lot easier than trying to pull from the other end of the skein or anything like that. Just use it. And just remember to chain 1 right after you change colors, and then work your mesh stitch to the end. Now I'm going to show you how to pick up the colors now after we turn. And this will get messy for these next 10 rows, just a little bit. You might want to switch your, sides of your yarn. I just brought that one over to that side. The yarns twist. After a while, I just kind of kept them where they were, but I pulled out a lot of extra slack, and then once I'm done through the rows, I cut off the color, and then I was free. It was okay. So it does get messy through the color stripe rows. Starting again with the mesh stitch. Oh, and here we go. I want to change color in this one. So that's the tail from before. We'll weave that in later. So here is my pink. It should be on this, the facing you now. You left it off towards the back. Just simply pull through with it. But here's the little trick I want you to do. Go ahead and chain 1, but before you start your single crochet, insert your hook underneath and then into the stitch. And then that way, that little pink grab isn't over here into the white. That's it. That's really the only thing that I found. It helped it keep a little bit neater looking, since we have to pull through on the stitch and we don't pull through on the chain. Because technically the chain is the first color of the last of that row. So we want to pull through on the single crochet. So here is my tail that I need to pull through, the gray. I'm pulling it all the way across over there. Still chaining 1. And of course I dropped my pink. I just let it drop to the back. We'll come back and pick that up on the next row. Insert your hook underneath that gray and underneath those 2 loops. And then pull it up and through. Just like that. Then chain 1. Now we'll do the exact same thing when we get down here to our other skein of the ivory color. Here we are in the last stitch. Just drop that to the back. Let's find wrap it through. Don't forget to chain 1 before you go into that stitch. We don't want to lose a stitch there. And here we are at the end. All right, let's do that one more time. Let me show you those color changes now one more time, just to make sure you have it. Just turn your work, and I tell you, the colors are getting twisted. They're getting twisty on me too. Just kind of pull a lot from your skeins, or do whatever trick that you might have up your sleeve to keep them orderly. But I couldn't find a trick, so I just let it be chaos for the 10 rows that I needed them. Here we go. Stop right here. Just simply drop that to the back, the color you no longer need, so that it's right here on the front when you do need it. Pull through. Kind of give that a little tug. Straighten out your stitches. Don't forget to chain 1. Now come here underneath. There you go. Pretty cool, huh? So every time after you single crochet, do not forget to do that chain 1 and skip 1. Here we are. Let's do the pink color change. Drop it to the back. Pick this up, pull it across. Maybe tighten down that gray. I'm dropping it. I'm not crocheting over it. I'm remembering to chain 1. And now here's that. I want to go underneath and into the stitch. There you go. Just like that. Okay, you've got it. All right, so here's my swatch that we're ready to go. I actually stopped just after doing 4 rows of this, but I do have 6 rows here, 6 rows there. Please refer to the color chart that Hannah has made, and it's on our website. And if you are only seeing this on YouTube, you need to push that little down arrow and you can click on the link and it will take you to the pattern on our website. So right away, we'll start with the border, and we're already in the corner with a single crochet. Just work 2 more single crochets into the corner. Each corner will have 3 single crochets. Then we will work the mesh stitch down this side of the blanket. So chain 1 and then kind of skip over a row and work a single crochet into the next row. This is really the trickiest part, I think, about finishing blankets, is to recognize what is the end of the row, what stitches look like. It's very, very confusing. So do your best and kind of get a rhythm going, just making sure that you're inserting your hook in the same spot. I think it's helping this blanket to work the mesh stitch down the side. I felt like it was definitely a lot more even and it didn't pull. I worked it one time with just all single crochets, but that made it really bunchy. So, and it kind of added wave to it. I just have still not found the absolute trick to always getting straight borders all the time, other than it's just trial and error. General rule, 1 stitch per row. So this is definitely working to do the mesh stitch, this alternating single crochet chain. So there we go. We've got it worked down the side. Now I'm here to the bottom, and I end with a single crochet. I will work 2 more to get around that corner. And go ahead and come out of there with a chain 1, and then do your best to decide where you want to work those single crochets. Hopefully they're into the bottom of the single crochets, and then chain 1 over the chain 1 space. The bottom, this is our starting chain row, so it's always a little bit tricky. So do the best you can, making it as even as possible. Okay, I'm still working across, getting to this corner space. And again, it's funny. There we go. There's our starting chain right there, that starting loop. Let's work 3 single crochets around that and get going up the other side. And then we'll get that border started. All right, so here is how you will start working this half double crochet slip stitch border. You'll start in a corner and you will chain 12. Now this number is completely up to you. If you want a wider border or a smaller border, it's up to you. This one's going to be very wide compared to our little swatch, and because I'm using larger yarn, but I wanted to go ahead and have plenty of chains to work into to show you this border. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12. Now my first tip is that when you work these very first row of regular half double crochet, you go ahead and work under the top first 2 loops that a chain makes, kind of underneath that bump in the back. It will make the border look a lot nicer if you can work this first row into those stitches. So here, maybe it's a little bit more clear. There's kind of like they cross over each other. It's a little bit tricky. Insert your hook underneath and above that very bottom loop that a chain makes. Work 10 half double crochets all the way back down to the blanket. Here we are, we've done one side. We don't turn or anything. I want you to, this one time only, slip stitch into that same space that you just ended the row with, or started your single crochet, or started your corner space. Just right there, just do one slip stitch. Now turn your work sort of towards you, and actually you're going to have the chain look like this. You'll still yarn over, and now you'll work underneath these top 2 loops of the stitch, pull back through, and continue pulling through just like a slip stitch. This is called the half double slip stitch. So what helps me to get into a little rhythm for this stitch is to sort of kind of like give it a little pinch so I can grab it and continue pulling it through these other 2 loops. All right, you'll work this on down, and I forgot to tell you that it's important that you keep track of the 10 stitches out to the corner. That will really help you make sure you're not missing any, because sometimes they can be hard to see when you get down close to the blanket edge. All right, your last stitch sometimes can be hard to see, but just look for those 2 vertical horizontal bars. Work right underneath them. Oops, almost grabbed for regular. No, just keep slip stitching. Then chain 1 and turn. Sort of turn this to face you. Let's work the half double all the way back down towards the blanket edge. All right, this is sometimes where it's handy to count. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. For some reason, this stitch, it kind of gets smashed down in there, so you'll want to make sure you don't miss it. Work under those 2 loops. Get your 10th stitch there before you slip stitch. And now this time, since we're still working in the same direction around, you will slip stitch 2 times over. So 1, and then slip stitch underneath the next stitch. Now turn your work sort of towards you and cross this in front of you. Grab it. And let's start back up. All right, this is the half double slip stitch. Now let me show you what this looks like, what we've got going so far. See, we're working this away from the blanket back and forth. All right, I'll keep working this off camera, and I'll show you how we'll work down the next side. All right, here is one complete side, and oh my gosh, I love this stitch so much. Okay, so I just slipped stitched 2 times, and now here I am at those, on my second one landed in the first of those 3 single crochets that make up the corner. So what really you want to do, it doesn't really matter what stitch you end in, you want to at least bring your row up so that we can get that next one. We want it as straight as possible. So I will work down one more time, and instead of slip stitching over 2 times, I'll just slip stitch the 1 time. here I am at this last corner, and instead of slip stitching twice, I'll just slip stitch under there one time. It's a little tight, but that's okay. There we go. Then turn, and this will be my last row on this edge of the blanket. So, okay. Here is, let's see, here it is on the back side. We can look at that. Did pretty good getting it even across. This is what it looks like on this side. And now what we will be doing is chaining up and working across the edge this way. So here we are. Instead of chaining 1 and turning, let's go ahead and chain 12. One, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12. All right. Again, the same thing will apply. Work so carefully to get underneath these 2 loops. It's a hard one to get. So here we are working. I just worked down that. And now again, I just want to work right into the first stitch with only 1 slip stitch for this starting one. So we'll turn and start. And we start with our slip stitch there and continue working down the side. Back and forth, same technique as before. When I get to back down to the edge of this, or to the edge of the blanket, then I'll begin slip stitching over 2 times. So generally in the corners, I think the rule could be 1 slip stitch and then 2 slip stitches the rest of the time. However, I want you to make sure that you're just using however many slip stitches you need to make it flat across your blanket. You'll see that if this part is rippling, then you have too many slip stitches in between, and maybe 1 will be fine. I just know everybody uses different yarn and different techniques. So anyway, I think my tutorial, I'm going to end here because you work down and you'll do the same thing and the same thing. And when you get back and you have worked clear back here, you'll just end it and kind of do the best you can with a slip stitch and then weave that end in. Let me show you the original blanket and how all of these corners kind of worked. And here we go. So maybe you can see here the finished look. So they all it kind of goes in a pinwheel. So anyway, a pinwheel, I guess, is that the right word? I don't know, but you'll notice when you lay them out. And please refer to the pictures on our website if you need even more clarity. So anyway, what I'm saying, let's see if I can find the finished edge. See, I can't even tell anymore. Could have been this one, probably this one. Finished it, slip stitched, and tried my very best to disguise it. So that's how it will end. And again, completely optional, up to you, but if you wanted to, I guess you could go into these and do 1 round of single crochet if just a slight dentation, bothers you. But again, I will leave that up to you. So anyway, here is this beautiful blanket. There is a much easier version on yarnspirations.com. It's just called the Colorful Stripe Blanket. It uses the half double crochet. I will have it linked in my blog post if you wanted to go look through that. And anyway, thanks as always for everybody and your kind comments and support. We just love you all so much, and we love sharing your work made from Daisy Farm Craft Patterns. So if you want to use the hashtag Daisy Farm Crafts on Instagram on your post, we'll see those and we can put them up into our stories, or come and share a picture to our Facebook page, or come and join the group Daisy Farm Crafters. that's a good way to connect with other people that are making the same patterns. All right, that is enough from me. We will talk to you soon. Thanks.